Yeah, it's more just like Kelly.
Testing, testing. Testing, testing.
Well, I can help you with that.
Testing, testing. Testing, testing.
It's streaming. Like, check the live stream on your phone.
Oh. Did the mic pick it up?
Yeah. She's speaking. So she's probably relaxing.
A lot of that is
Patty.
not under your purview. Patty. Kristen knows what she's talking about. So absolutely. Terrible, Kristen.
All right. Folks, can I have more of you come this way a little bit closer? We can create a third row. That would be great. Senator, I'm going to have you stand right here, right next to the mayor. That's excellent, right there. And then this way. Rep, if you want to stand on the other side of the AG, please. Absolutely. When I go after Birch, you'll be called. Okay. Yep. Do I have to mention somebody? No, you're going to sit. My daughter's late for school today. Just getting there. I know. All right, we ready?
Remember the old saying, everything's the same, but not by you. You feel like we had part of this, Howie? A lot out there. Howie will give the press conference. It'll be very brief.
Hello, everyone. I would normally say good morning, but this is exceptionally difficult for the many leaders standing with me here today, and the millions of Arizonans who continue to not have control over their own bodies. This ruling is a result of Republicans' decades-long fight to end abortion. Less than 2 years ago, Donald Trump overturned Roe and continues to brag about it. We remember when Doug Ducey and the Republican legislature pushed through a 15-week ban. And we remember when congressional Republicans sponsored legislation that would enact a national ban. We also remember Sonny Borrelli humiliating Arizonans, saying to hold an aspirin between their knees to prevent pregnancy. It is hard to believe that a law from 1864 is now taking away the rights of millions in 2024. And because MAGA Republicans, all because MAGA Republicans are following Donald Trump's lead. And every Arizonan needs to know it will not stop there. Kari Lake, Juan Ciscomani, and David Schweikert will help Donald Trump achieve a national abortion ban. They've said it themselves. But we are prepared to fight back against this extremism. Together, our Democratic governor, attorney general, mayors, legislators, all of our organizers, and all of our healthcare professionals, we will use our power to pass the ballot initiative, restoring reproductive rights from Bullhead City to Bisbee. We will win the legislature, achieving a Democratic majority that will move our state forward. And we will reject Kari Lake's extremism and conspiracy theories. And we will re-elect President Biden and Vice President Harris, who will make Roe the law of the land. The decision of if and when to start a family is so deeply personal, and carrying a pregnancy comes with so many potential complications. Arizonans deserve access to every form of reproductive health care, and the right to access that care solely belongs to us. MAGA Republicans are on the record wanting to ban abortion, and Arizonans will remember that in November. I now want to introduce one of our biggest champions for reproductive rights, our incredible Attorney General, Kris Mayes.
Good morning, and thank you for being here. Fighting for reproductive freedom, a cornerstone of my administration, because the people of this state deserve to make their own private medical decisions without interference from the government or anti-abortion activists. The decision by the Arizona Supreme Court today is unconscionable and an affront to freedom. Make no mistake, by effectively striking down a law passed this century and replacing it with one from 160 years ago, the court has risked the health and lives of Arizonans. The Arizona Court of Appeals decision, which the Supreme Court has struck down today, was well-reasoned and aligned with how courts harmonize different legislation. Today's decision to reimpose a law from a time when Arizona wasn't a state, the Civil War was still raging, and women could not vote, will go down in history as a stain on our state and on the Supreme Court. It is one of the worst decisions in the history of the Arizona Supreme Court, if not the worst. This is far from the end of the debate on reproductive freedom, and I look forward to the people of Arizona having their say in the matter. And let me be completely clear. As long as I am Attorney General of the state of Arizona, no woman or doctor will be prosecuted under this draconian law. No woman or doctor will be prosecuted under this law as long as I am Attorney General. Not by me, nor by any county attorney serving in our state, not on my watch. Since taking office last January, we have worked day in and day out to protect reproductive rights in Arizona. We established the first ever reproductive rights unit in the AG's office. We have fought to maintain access to medication abortion in our state. We've issued data privacy guidelines to help Arizonans protect their privacy when seeking reproductive health care, and we have stood strong in the defense of IVF treatment. And Arizonans have my commitment that as long as I am Attorney General, I will fight like hell. And my office will continue to do everything we can to protect and defend the fundamental rights of every Arizonan. And I will just say this, my office has this morning been reviewing the decision. I am going to go back to the office when we're done here to review the decision. We are looking at everything on the table available to us to fight this decision. Everything is on the table, and we will pursue every option available to us to ensure that this decision is never implemented in the state of Arizona. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney General Mayes. And while we're fighting for these rights here in Arizona, we need a president that will restore Roe on the national level so that we never risk losing reproductive rights ever again. And I'm proud to next introduce Phoenix Mayor Kate Gallego.
Thank you. We are here today because the Arizona Supreme Court upheld the the 1864 abortion ban, which has no exceptions for rape, for incest, or the health of the mother. I'm so thankful for leaders like Attorney General Mays and the people standing here today who are fighting to protect women and our health. This is dangerous. It was written 160 years ago, before people understood modern medicine, and we have to change it. There's no one more responsible for the fact that we are here today than Donald Trump. He set out to bring us here today. He appointed Supreme Court justices who overturned Roe versus Wade, setting us back decades. The girls today and the young women do not have the rights that we once did because of Donald Trump. Donald Trump is dangerous and reckless. The 1864 ban is totally out of touch. Our most basic rights are infringed. We must re-elect President Joe Biden and Vice President Harris. They will fight to protect women. They will fight to protect our basic health care, IVF, access to contraceptive. All of these issues are on the line in the presidential race, and we have to deliver. The path to the presidency goes through Arizona, and the path to protect abortion rights goes through Arizona. We must meet this moment. We must mobilize for all of us. The coalition here today couldn't be more important, and the mission couldn't be more important. President Biden and Vice President Harris will fight for women's health and fight for Arizona. Together, we will defeat those who will threaten our most basic freedoms. We must remember in November.
Thank you, Mayor. I next want to call up Senate Minority Whip Eva Birch, who shared her story from the Senate floor a few weeks ago, capturing the world's attention in this fight for our rights. Senator.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I am Arizona State Senator Eva Birch. It was just about 2 years ago that I had my first abortion. 2 weeks after, the Roe decision came through, and I would not have been able to access that care. That was a wanted pregnancy that my husband and I had been trying for, that we were so excited about. We had named our baby. That was our expectation. Things don't always go the way that you want them to. Things don't always go the way that you hope. What you need is to know that when things go wrong, you're going to be safe, that there are going to be options for you, that you're going to be able to access the care that you need. Less than 3 weeks ago, I had an abortion under remarkably similar circumstances, a pregnancy that I was excited about, a baby that I would have loved to have had, with a husband who I love very much. And what I had to go through to receive that care was unconscionable as it was. And now I cannot believe that we are even talking about what we might do to doctors if they care for women in this way, what we might do to patients if they experience these hardships. We have to have a more open and honest conversation about what abortion care looks like, about who the abortion patient is, and about what is going to happen when these bans are in place. Please believe me and understand, women will die. Please stop killing us with your arrogance. This is not a time for political posturing. This is not a time to lean so heavy into your base that you forget that your decisions have consequences. And this is an issue that absolutely transcends political divides. Democrats, Republicans, Independents, and people of all political parties utilize abortion care. People of all religious backgrounds utilize abortion care. Well, we are in such a divided climate right now that some of these races that we're talking about in November that are absolutely critical to the future of the American family, of Arizonan families, are up in the air. We are going to need more support than what we have right now. We are going to need people who don't always vote Democrat to vote for Democrats in this election. We need you to understand that this is the issue of our times. And if you feel like your political party has been hijacked by radical extremists, that's because it has. It's because there isn't a place for you there anymore. And I'm telling you right now that if you are voting pro-choice, there's a place for you here. And I am just calling out to the people of Arizona and to the people of this country to please consider your loved ones, consider the reality of the consequences of these decisions, and join us, and be with us, and vote in November, up and down the ticket, for pro-choice candidates. It couldn't be more important. There couldn't be a more appropriate time. The time is now, and we need you. And these consequences are very far-reaching. How am I supposed to tell my patients that it's okay for them to think about getting pregnant right now and expanding their families? This is a hostile and inhospitable environment for people who want to have children to grow their families. This is the result of political extremists. This is the result of Republican political extremists. And we have to break through this. We have to do better. Please come with us. Please help us. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Senator Birch, for your bravery and commitment to moving our state forward. We're so lucky to be represented by so many strong Democrats, and just as lucky to have leaders like Representative Stephanie Stahl Hamilton, who has been fighting in the legislature to protect contraceptives. Representative Stahl Hamilton co-authored the Right to Contraception Act, which was blocked by every Republican in the House and in the Senate. She's a fighter for our freedoms, and I'm so honored to be joined by her today.
Hello, everyone. I, like everyone else today, am devastated and angered by the Supreme Court's decision to ban abortion access. It wasn't too long ago that Governor Hobbs and I introduced legislation to protect access to contraception in Arizona. We were sounding the alarm to extreme Arizona Republicans from our legislature to Congress. And I am here today with Democrats to sound the alarm again. Arizona Republicans have made it clear that this is not the end of the road for them. Whether it's banning abortions, making it harder to get contraceptives, or access to IVF, this ban is just the beginning. I've watched as they've passed abortion bans, instituted a 24-hour waiting period for abortions, and much more. And over the last few sessions, Arizona Republicans have passed personhood legislation. Personhood legislation, like the bill sponsored by Representative Matt Gress last session, could have spelled disaster for reproductive health care, including IVF. Make no mistake, every Republican in the House and Senate voted in support of fetal personhood legislation, the same type of legislation that opened the door for the ruling in Alabama. Republicans here in Arizona are complicit. They are complicit in this ban and in a nationwide attempt to ban access to the range of reproductive health care, from contraception to abortion to IVF. They don't plan to stop until our rights are gone. And for the sake of all Arizonans and our medical professionals, we cannot let them hold on to power for another year. We must flip the state legislature and restore access to reproductive freedom once and for all. It's not right that Arizonans need to brace themselves every few years in hope that their fundamental rights will change. And neither is hope a strategy. We've got to make a plan to elect Democrats and flip our state legislature. Abortion is on the ballot this year, from the ballot initiative to the presidency, and most importantly, in our state legislature. Both the Arizona House and Senate have a one-seat deficit in each chamber, and flipping just 2 seats will stop these attacks on reproductive freedom. Flipping the legislature means that we can protect reproductive freedom, the right to abortion, contraceptions, and IVF. Let's make this the last year that abortion rights are put in jeopardy. We can work together to ensure Republicans like Representative Gress do not have the power to play politics with our body. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Stahl-Hamilton. Our last speaker is someone who's on the front lines every single day. Dr. Koyama, who works for Camelback Family Planning, who has provided care for thousands of Arizonans and knows firsthand how devastating this decision will be to her patients. Dr. Koyama.
My name is Dr. Atsuko Koyama. I'm an emergency medicine physician and a proud Arizona abortion provider. Today's Supreme Court ruling is a complete ban on abortion. It also forces us as physicians to have to consult legislators, lawyers, and hospital administrators, not doctors, to determine if someone can receive life-saving abortion services. It forces non-physicians into conversations that should be between a doctor and a patient whose life is at risk. And it criminalizes me from providing essential health care. So I'm going to tell you about my patients who need to have their voices heard and their stories heard. I want to tell you about some of my patients whose lives were saved by an abortion. Just last week, I had a patient trying to survive domestic violence, scared she would be forcibly tied to her abuser if she continued the pregnancy. Having an abortion was part of her path to freedom from a life of fear and violence. Another patient wanted to be alive to see her daughter graduate from high school and to walk her down the aisle for her wedding. She risked leaving this child as an orphan if she continued the pregnancy because her first pregnancy left her with severe postpartum cardiomyopathy, which made any future pregnancies dangerous for her. There are thousands of other patients whose medical care should not be in question, like those with miscarriages, ectopic pregnancies, and early pregnancy complications. Today's ban criminalizes me from providing essential health care to these patients until their life is at risk. And that at risk is not something that I really get to decide myself. It should be something that a patient decides. How sick does anyone have to be to receive health care? I'm an emergency medicine physician as well. I don't care your race, your ethnicity, your background, how much money you make, whether you have insurance or not. In the ER, I provide life-saving care, regardless of your background. If you're an extremist Republican, I will provide you with care, right? And so that is what's so important, that I cannot do that without consulting numerous people while I'm also trying to save other people's lives. I will always provide care to patients within the laws of the state I practice, but let me be clear. The threat against abortion care will never end while extremist Republicans are in office. Their agenda is clear. Republicans running for state legislature, the U.S. House, the U.S. Senate, the White House would ban abortion, would jeopardize birth control, and take away IVF. And they are putting our lives at risk. Americans are being denied standard and appropriate medical care, fertility preserving care, and life-saving care. Bans and restrictions impact all pregnant people, their families, and their communities, and they do not protect anybody's health. So, as a physician, I know Arizonans are safer with the Democrats' agenda, with a Democratic majority in the Arizona State House, a Democratic congressional delegation, and Democrats in the White House. So please join me and these legislators fighting to keep abortion accessible for Arizonans, and with Arizonans for abortion access who are fighting to enshrine the right to essential health care, abortion, in our state constitution. We're fighting to protect the health and privacy of all pregnant people so that we can respect your freedom to make healthcare decisions without government interference. So make sure you help everyone you know and don't know to register, vote, and then go out and vote. Right? This fight is not over. The health of our loved ones, our communities, and our lives is on the line. So let's not give up. This is not the end. We need to continue to fight tirelessly to ensure the ballot measure passes and that we have a Democratic champions representing Arizonans up and down the ballot to ensure our reproductive rights, including access to abortion. We will never have them taken away again. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Koyama, for the care you provide every single day. And thank you to all of our speakers and leaders for your dedication in this fight. We are in this together, and we will deliver for Arizonans. Thank you all. Now I'm going to open it up for questions.
Ms. Mays. We'll start with Howie. Ms. Mays, come on down. You have taken the position, certainly, that you don't have to, prosecutors have discretion with the prosecutor. You're taking the position that 15 individually elected county attorneys lose their right to take today's Supreme Court ruling and what it says and prosecute because you know better?
No, what I have said and what the governor has said in her executive order is that the authority for prosecuting abortion sits now in my office where it belongs. As you know, Howie, Arizona also has a law that says that the Attorney General has supervisory authority over all of the county attorneys. And I intend, whether or not the governor had signed that executive order, I intended to exercise that supervisory authority to prevent county attorneys from prosecuting a law that I still believe is unconstitutional. I believe there's a right to privacy in the Arizona Constitution. There is. That issue obviously hasn't yet been litigated. And the other thing I would say is, as I said earlier, this is not over from a legal standpoint, okay? My office is as we speak, discussing what our next steps are, whether that is appealing this decision to the United States Supreme Court, whether that is taking the opportunity that it would appear the court gave me in taking this decision and the constitutional questions that remain back down to the Superior Court. So the issue is not over with. The 1864 ban is not yet fully litigated. And so to get back to your question, yes, that's exactly what I intend to do. We are not going to prosecute a woman or a doctor for abortion in the state of Arizona while I'm Attorney General, and I'm going to do that pursuant to my supervisory authority. And I think this is important because, you know, we've had a couple of county attorneys who've been clear as mud about what they intend to do. Dennis McGrain in Yavapai County hasn't come out and said whether he intends to prosecute doctors. Frankly, the county attorney of Maricopa County, Rachel Mitchell, also has continued to refuse to answer questions about whether she intends to prosecute under this draconian 1864 ban. And so it's important for my office to stand up for the women and the men of the state of Arizona and say, no, we're not going to do this in the state of Arizona.
So you believe that you could tell county attorneys they would not prosecute any of the list of things in Title 13?
Look, obviously it's not an authority that I take lightly. It's not something that I want to have to do. But when the Supreme Court upholds what is clearly an unconstitutional ban on abortion, and when there are still lingering and remaining legal issues to work our way through, no, I'm not going to allow any county attorney to prosecute abortion, and nor am I. And so, you know, between now and the time the people of Arizona have their say, and trust me, they're going to have their say in a big way.
That's right.
In a big way. I think this was a seismic decision, and maybe not in the way the Republicans thought it was going to be for Arizona politics and for the election in November. I think this changes everything. I think it supercharges, frankly, the ballot initiative, and it supercharges the elections of all pro-choice candidates for the legislature. Jeremy?
We're going to do left to right, all right, guys? Go ahead.
Question for some of the lawmakers here. If the Republican colleagues propose a new law, perhaps allowing abortions through 15 weeks or something else that goes kind of halfway between the total ban and the ballot measure, are you willing to work with them? Are you willing to vote for that? Are you willing to pass something that permits abortions maybe less than you want to see?
So I want to make it really clear that pregnancy complications don't get safer after 15 weeks. They become more dangerous. It becomes more serious. So am I willing to compromise the lives of pregnant people after 15 weeks to have the appearance of being diplomatic? Absolutely not. I think that we need to, again, be honest about these conversations about what happens when we put abortion bans in place. Abortion bans are hurtful to our families, to our communities, and to individuals all across the state and all across the country. Does that mean that we can't have a more complex conversation about what abortion care looks like at different stages during pregnancy? No, we can have a more complex discussion about that. But what I will say is that bans hurt people who need care the most. And the further along in your pregnancy that you are, the more dangerous it is when something goes wrong, and the less likely you are to be able to just go ahead and pick up and leave the state to go somewhere that you need to go in order to get that care. Travel is often very dangerous for somebody in a volatile situation during their pregnancy when things are going wrong. So we have to operate in reality. And the Republicans in the Arizona legislature have refused to operate in reality for so many years that we really have to talk about whether or not they're the right people for the job.
Without knowing what kind of proposals we might see, are you willing to compromise on that?
So I want to just make it really clear that I'm not anticipating any proposals about abortion care, about access to abortion from my Republican colleagues. I really appreciate and respect my Republican colleagues. I co-sponsor bills with my Republican colleagues. We agree on some things and we disagree on others. Do I think that they are going to now become champions for reproductive health care because of this ruling and their fears about what the political consequences might be? Not even then. Absolutely not.
If I may, as a person who was serving in the state legislature when the 15-week ban was imposed, I didn't vote for it then, and I wouldn't vote for it now. I will never vote to allow the government to take control of our bodies and our reproductive choices, telling us when and how we get to be pregnant or not be pregnant.
In determining whether or not a pregnancy is a risk to the mother's life, you mentioned having to consult lawyers and legislators. Do you know more of what that decision would actually look like in the moment in deciding whether or not?
Yes.
How much? I'm sorry, and how much that might delay procedures?
Yeah. So in the emergency room, when a person comes into the ER, I have heard of cases from colleagues who are emergency medicine physicians, even stories here in Arizona, where a patient comes in, they have an ectopic pregnancy, and there's cardiac activity. Providing that patient with life-saving care, surgical care to remove that ectopic pregnancy is something that was done without hesitation. Right away, go to the OR. But in this day and age, even this kind of also goes to the point of the 15-week ban. Right now, we have a 15-week ban. This happened during a 15-week ban. There were conversations that had to be had, phone calls that had to be made because there was cardiac activity. This is not an abortion. Let me be clear. It's not an abortion. There was cardiac activity on the ultrasound. She was bleeding out into her belly. You have to decide, is she enough at death's door? How do you define that? Is it 15 minutes till death? Is it 30 minutes, an hour? I don't know, because that's a asinine question to ask yourself as an ER physician, right? I try to save your life when you come in for what you come in for. And if you can't find an obstetrician gynecologist to do the surgery, you start having to call other surgical specialties. Maybe the trauma physician who's now going to do the surgery because that's what their job is to save someone's life. But now they can't save your grandma's life who was in a car accident because that trauma surgeon is now doing an obstetrician's job. right? So these are the cases where it is absolutely any ban is unsafe for a patient. These decisions need to be between a doctor and the patient and their family and their loved ones.
I'll take the next question in the back over here.
Oh, sorry, Dr. Please stand up. Hi,
Okay.
Dr. Kriyama, are the assurances from the AG going enough for you or Dr. Liverich, to continue providing services? She said this law is not going to get worse. Is that enough for you?
So I am going to restate my position that I will practice medicine within the laws of the land, the place where I stand, okay? I'm not going to sit here and be like, I'm not going to repeat what you just said, because listen, I have a family, I have people to feed, I have a mortgage to pay. I will practice medicine as within the confines of the laws of where I stand.
Could I just follow up on that, Jack? So, look, I mean, to be more clear, we are going to do everything we can to seek a further stay to try to get the 1864 ban stayed for as long as we possibly can. Again, I can't promise anything. We don't know what's going to happen. But my objective as the Attorney General, obviously, number one, we aren't going to prosecute under 1864. We aren't going to allow, or we're going to do everything we can to try to stop county attorneys from prosecuting, and I'm going to do everything I can to keep the lower court stay in place.
Any more questions? Over here in the front, and then I'll go to pink shirt, and then we'll come over here. Go ahead, Alex.
It's a simplistic question, but I'm sure you guys are. For somebody who's sitting at home and consuming this news and is confused, why is this happening here in Arizona?
It is very shocking. This is happening because of Donald Trump. Donald Trump overturned Roe and allowed these attacks, the prosecution of our healthcare providers for, doing abortion care. And I think folks need to know that Republicans are doing Trump's bidding. They are doing Trump's bidding to try to win an election. They're politicizing this issue, and they're putting lives at risk. Like it's been said multiple times here, the decision of if and when to start a family belongs to a woman, her family, and her doctor, without any interference from the government. And I'm confident that we are going to win in November. We're going to vote out every single person that's standing in the way of progress.
All right, here.
A little more about outreach to independents and Republicans who might support access to abortion, but might say also I vote for ballot measure, but then vote for Republicans because I agree with them, like easier on the economy, on immigration.
Yeah, I'm happy to speak on that. So I come from a district that it looks a lot like Arizona and actually looks a lot like the United States, where we are just about a third with Democrats and with Republicans and with independents. It's really important for me that I'm representing all of my constituents and not only a small faction of my constituency. So I think that the best thing that we can do really is to remind ourselves that we represent large communities, that we represent so many people, and that we have to make sure that their voices are being heard and that we are listening to their concerns. And I think that we have to have these broader conversations and again, just be a little bit more intellectually honest about what these decisions do to our communities and again, not be so afraid to reach out to people who don't always think exactly like we do. I will tell you right now that in my district, I run against an opponent who is adamantly opposed to abortion at any point in time. And we have multiple districts that are these really high stakes, really competitive districts where if we lose in these districts, I'm telling you that these laws are just the beginning, that these bans are just the beginning. We are absolutely looking at threats to contraception. We are absolutely looking at threats to in vitro. And we are absolutely looking at patients dying because they couldn't access the care that they needed, or patients getting infections because they felt like they needed needed to go to somewhere else to get the care they needed, and it was delayed. I mean, these are real consequences that we face. And so I think that the most important thing that we can do is, again, to have broader conversations, talk to more people, really expand our horizons a little bit, and also to look at these districts where the stakes are really high and make sure that we are investing our time and our energy into making sure that pro-choice candidates are being elected up and down the ticket. So I think it's going to require a monumental concerted effort, but I think that we're going to win because these extremist Republicans have dug their heels in on this issue that is a losing issue. And we just need to make sure that that information is getting out to our communities and that they understand that there's a viable alternative and that these positions that are rooted in so much extremism are not going to be found here with the Democrats. That we are ready to be more pragmatic, to be more realistic, and to listen to our constituents in more meaningful ways.
All right, we need to take two more. I had one over here.
Yeah, question for H.A. Mays and as well as Senator Birch. Statements are coming from your colleague Senator Show on that he believes that he is disappointed in the decision today and that he will work with colleagues to repeal Answer 64. Also, I believe Matt Crash just put out a statement as well. What do you say to Republican lawmakers who are saying that they believe that the 64 law is a step too far and they will work with it?
I have an answer to that.
Yeah,
one sentence.
I'll let Senator Birch answer that, but I'll also say it's a little late. It's too little, too late. But I'll let the senator answer that and our legislators. I just want to say a couple things about the prior question and independence. As you all know, I won by 280 votes, and I won because of the Dobbs decision. Right. And I won because independents throughout this state and Republicans and Democrats were outraged when the United States Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade. And I can tell you they are going to be even more outraged by this 1864 decision by the Arizona Supreme Court. So if past is prologue, this is going to have a deep and lasting impact on politics in Arizona, and they bit off more than they could chew.
So what I would say to my Republican colleagues who are surprised and dismayed by this decision is don't sign an amicus brief supporting it.
Right.
Don't vote for a 15-week abortion ban.
Right.
And if you are ready to come forward with meaningful legislation that will help support and protect reproductive rights and women and families across Arizona, I would love to work with you. I've worked with many of my Republican colleagues. I have enjoyed working with many of my Republican colleagues on a number of issues. I'm very much ready to work with you. Let's do it. And people of Arizona, watch the board. Watch the board. See where your electeds vote on these issues, if they come to a vote.
If there's a bill for just a straight repeal of the 1864 ban without any other provisions, would you vote for that?
That's my last question. We got to go after this. I'm sorry.
So I actually submitted a bill, House Bill 2677, just flat out straight repeal of that 1864 ban. It never got a hearing in committee. It never got discussed. It certainly did not go up on that board. I would not have submitted that bill had I not intended to vote on it.
Thank you, everyone.